Real last quick super chat. Thank you for this small wallet. Is Palantir a 100-bagger? This is obviously a large discussion, but this is a fun one to end it on. I don't know. 100x from here? I don't know.
My safe bet is, will it beat the market over the next 10 years to 20 years? Because that's how long I plan on holding, at least. Most definitely. Yep. Do I think it a 100-bagger? I'm not a fortune teller, but that is a great book. Chris Mayer is a phenomenal author and investor. I wish I had his money. But yeah, I couldn't tell you if it's a 100-bagger.
So a 100-bagger would make it, let's just put it in perspective for everybody watching, companies $30 to $35 billion today. So that would put it at a $3 trillion to $3.5 trillion valuation, slightly above Apple's today valuation and slightly above Saudi Arabia.
A little hard to do.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Not impossible.
I would say it's not out of the realm, right? I think that there's a lot of stuff going on in the organization that I can't even fathom, right? That they're working on that will be released over the next 2 to 3 years, that I think people would be like, oh crap, like I thought about something like that. Like think about all the crap that we wish that they had done over the past year and a half that we've talked about that has come to fruition. And I'm sure that there's more of that we've talked about that they said, this should be a product that they're already working out and going to release. The thing that I think is, this I think has a lot less risk than a lot of some of these other speculative companies out there. It's already established net income, GAAP profitability, if that matters to you. They're growing a cash position. They have very little to no debt. Their only liabilities are really the leaseholds that they have. So thinking about it from that perspective, they will grow continuously, in my opinion, between 10 to 30% over the next several years, if not decade. I think for me, I could easily see it being a $250 to $350 billion company. So in that respect, it's anywhere between a 5 to 10x. Do I see it going to $500 million? I do, personally. I think it could be, $500 billion. I could see it being a $500 billion company. I could also see some circumstances where it's a $1 trillion company with the gross profits that they're able to achieve, and hopefully that the net margins are able to match as well. But anyway, that's just kind of my thought. I'm initially kind of, my reference case now is an 8 to 10x, but I could see cases where it could be a 25x as well.
Just keep DCA and don't try to time it, man. Like what Lunar said, he said, this reminds me a lot of Tesla in 2018. I was like, you know what? Kind of feels like that.
Why? Like very briefly.
I think it feels like that because we're all kind of bitching and moaning we didn't buy more at 6. And yeah, that was a great we were all complaining. We thought at 6, we're like, well, does it get to 10? And all of a sudden it spiked all the way to 20. But to Matt's point, there's so much that we don't know what's coming, and they're executing to what we said a year, 2 years ago. Keep in mind, we're talking about something that we know that saves lives and real world problems, and most of the world doesn't know about it. Yeah. So do you want to invest in something that most of the world doesn't know about, but it's proven, and our own government's willing to get sued over it and then go buy it?
So Tesla was in that situation where people who were already deep truly understand, hey, this thing is valuable. 2018, the Model 3 was already out or just in production, if I remember correctly. So people who were more deep into these dynamics felt, oh, this car is actually very, very cool. This will actually sell a lot. So while the stock in 2018, I think it was already depressed, like the multiples were not very high because they were burning a lot of cash. There were worries about being diluted to keep running. Actually, that's the period where I was an analyst. And,
it also traded sideways for like 5 years, right? So could we trade sideways in the mid-20s for the next 3 years?
Yeah.
It could happen. Does that mean that it's a bad company and the thesis is broken? Probably not. But there's that aha moment, and I think we are going to have an aha moment. I do think that we will see another big spike eventually.
So guys, so the question is about the 100-bagger. When you buy a company, do you ever think, okay, I buy this because it could be a 100-bagger, or you actually search for a 10-bagger? Or maybe another question, you're just happy to find something that can confidently provide you returns that are better than the S&P 500?
I evaluate it based off of what I think the potential risk is of the organization and what eventually I think the range of opportunities I think it could be. I honestly don't make investments trying to guarantee anything, because I know anything can go to zero. And I'm not saying that, to be funny. I'm saying that in reality. But, I try to estimate on a downside and kind of upside where I think the range of this stock will go if it is able to meet its kind of obligations and its kind of criteria that it's set out for itself. I'll take Rocket Lab, for example. I think Rocket Lab could be anywhere between a 20 to $100 billion company within the next, say, 15 years. And it's currently trading, I think, at like a $2 billion market cap. So if that's the case, I could see it being anywhere between a 10 to a 50x from where it is today. And with every passing, say, quarter, they're getting closer and closer to being able to kind of break even and, not burning any cash and actually being able to start building to their cash pile. So to me, they're lowering their risk from high to medium in the risk category. And they have a great potential to way outperform the S&P 500 if things go well. So that's just an example of how I just briefly break down organizations. Palantir being something that I think can get to that, 10x sort of range, 8 to 10x sort of range, with going from a medium to a lower risk. And I think that that's something that will also, over the next, say, 10 to 15 years, outpace the S&P 500. I think the S&P 500 by 2032 timeframe will be about 9,000 to 10,000. And so I think you have about a 2x, 2.5x from here for the S&P, or it's going to go up about 100 or 150% from where it is today, if you ask me, over the next, say, 8 to 9 years. So to me, investing in something that's a what was I trying to say, a 10 to a 50x, or something that's a 8 to 10x, is going to outpace that. And you might have to take on a little bit more risk, but if you start to see those risks start to exacerbate over time, you have the opportunity to sell out beforehand.
Mm-hmm. And you, Amit?
Yeah,
I agree with Matt. I literally think, how can you beat the S&P 500? Because the more, and Matt says this all the time on Twitter, right? It's like 99% of investors should just invest in the S&P 500, because it's a lot of due diligence you got to do to pick an individual stock. And all of us for 2 years now, 92 episodes, we've been saying, let's pick Palantir. You would only invest in Palantir if you think you can beat the S&P 500. Now, a 100-bagger without a consumer product, I don't know if it's 3 trillion.
Yeah.
But 300 billion, I think, is very possible.
I think for me, the same thing, like young me first starting individual investing, it's like I was looking for 10, 20, 30, like you were thinking, and the market was in a different area. It was irrational. It was out of the norm. But now, and the good quality companies that I've invested in have, 4 or 5x and held for all the losers. I just think about, like, can it beat the market, and what's the risk associated, as Matt said. And so with this one, it's like, if it doesn't become a 10x and it's only a 5x, am I going to be mad? No, because I manage my personal finances in a way that I know a 5x with my allocation I'll be.
You already had 10x in your life, right?
I've had on positions a 10x, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I personally never had a 10x, and I hope Palantir will become my first one. Like, I had some doubles, some. Palantir became a 4x for a day back then. I seek that, but that's not the primary goal. I think here I'm more different from many retail. Since I have the finance study, the financial working experience, I seek more. Okay, I buy something that can confidently be way better than the S&P 500, and the simple reasoning behind that of why I'm confident in having a Palantir is because if we take the current multiple on the revenues is around 12, 13, that's a reasonable multiple. It's not low per se. Like, when you talk about revenue multiples, it means that typically is not a cheap company. But even if Palantir keep staying at this level that is not low, but okay. And Palantir actually keeps growing that 20% growth for many years, and 20%, even with 5% dilution, so 15% CAGR on the revenue per share growth, that would be enough to be way, way ahead of the S&P 500. So the core question then becomes, okay, there are enough conditions to actually provide Palantir enough room, enough speed to keep growing 20% more or less, or even more for the next decade, or even 2 decades or more? Actually, I would say yes, and we have proofs from Microsoft, but here more important, I would say ServiceNow, Salesforce. These companies are actually huge and they keep growing very, very well. So if they achieve that, and I believe Palantir is a superior company to both of them, the potential is there. So the framework with which I'm having it is right now 12x revenues. And Palantir is growing quite badly, but if they keep just growing 15% and the multiple stays flat, that's already enough to do 2x the average of the S&P 500. So I'm confident, like that's more what I think, like what I focus on, and I would say the 10x would be a side effect that I desire, but is not my goal. Obviously, 100x would be like a major dream, and I would think they would put that as one step closer to Forbes.
Okay. That's it. This is one of the best episodes we've had in a very long time. Again, thank you, Dom and Matt, for breaking this down, especially this new ontology service segment of Palantir from a technical perspective. And thank you, Arnie, as well.
That our 100th episode is going to be right on earnings. Like it's going to be.
That's true.
It's going to be right around the time earnings is our 100th episode. So hopefully we'll get to ring the bell on some fun news.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right, awesome. Guys.
Thank you to the 185 of you that are crazy enough to be up at 12 a.m. on a Friday night, Saturday morning to watch us, listen to us. Thank you all for being here. It means a lot to us. Follow everyone on Twitter. They're all in the description, and we'll see you guys next week on Palantir Weekly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye, everyone.
And also this one.